Wealthward Capital, Reboot and Thrive, where we just want to encourage everyone through this hard reboot that we've been forced through to look at opportunities to change, to bring in new information and thrive. And so Omar is here today, and he's a friend. We have great impassioned conversations about this very topic, so I'm excited about it today. But he is really focused on bringing fun back to the family. He started a company around this, and he's really trying to grow it right now, which I think is very relevant. But Omar, why don't you give us a couple minutes on, what you're doing, your passion, and a little bit about Skipydoo.
Sure. Chris, always nice to speak. We speak regularly, as you said. It's an honor to be on this program, and we wish you all the best. So Skipydoo is basically, it's a company where my kids and I create new games, fun games, and we use household items and toys, and it's based around creativity and imagination of these games. But we like to keep it physical in terms of there's some movement. So you're moving your body, plus you're moving your mind. You're using your mind. It's quick reflexes. It's fun. It's jumping. And the next couple of the next games is we are using other types of stuff. We have a chemistry game that's coming up that has to do with physical activity as well. There's one, there are a couple obstacle courses and many, many more. But the whole premise is, how to use indoor or outdoor, hopefully when we get to go back outside,
Right.
as a playground to play, and you create your own games where you can engage as a parent with your kids, or kids, if there are siblings, to engage with each other, cousins, friends. We want to bring that back.
And so I want to start this conversation off, grounded in, this philosophy that you and I really enjoy, and we can have these conversations. I want to have this one right now, which is, at some point you realized that there was a need to bring back fun and to really be the leader of your family and say, you know what, guys, like we need to have some fun and we need to play together. Like I, as the dad, need to initiate play and even show you guys how to play again, because things were getting distorted. Where was the story? Like, where did that really start for you? What were you observing?
It's funny. If you ask anyone that I grew up with who has known me over the years, it's always that I think they feel I'm a big kid inside, and if you look back, childhood is always one of the fondest memories for a person, because everything is organic, everything is fun, everything is entertaining. So those memories are quite cool, and for me personally, they were great. And back in our days, it was a lot of fun, and you used to have fun in different ways. Obviously, times have changed now. I cannot, I don't want to force. Every generation has their own way of fun, but if you can mix them together, I think that is where I came from. And I was, worried, and as is with many parents, with the amount of digital content that my kids, were hooked onto and digested. And I said, there's no point of, if you say, oh, this is my experience. If I said, don't do this, the question is, okay, Dad, we won't do this. What's the alternative? Right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, that's a valid point, right? So I said, okay, fine, just do what you're doing now. Give me 2 days and I'll come back with you. So I came in 2 days and I said, stop. He's like, okay, what's the alternative? I said, this is the alternative. And we started, we played some games together, and, and it was quite fun. And 2-3 hours passed. nothing to, no one came back to me and said, oh, we want to go back and watch, and nothing.
Yeah.
It was nice. And so that kind of helped get away from the digital content. And also, I think, Chris, what we forget is, as adults, we also need to play. We also need to have fun, right?
Yeah.
And through the years, I got so bogged down with, either in the beginning, my career, and then, with my own businesses, or my own ideas. Some did well, a lot didn't. And you just go through that rabbit hole of, what am I going to do? What is this? What's the next step? What is the best thing? And you forget the play element. And the play
Yeah.
element is, yeah, I mean, not as a kid as you were, but the play element could be an extension of what you like to do. It could be soccer, it could be basketball, it could be reading, anything that you kind of did as a pastime when you were a kid, or as an adult, that you really enjoyed. That
Yeah.
has to be an extension of your work or your life, or else to me, people will burn out way quicker than they're supposed to.
They will. And you've said a lot in that little section, and I want to tease out a couple of things here, because I think that these are some of the things that I think are so important. Number one is creating these games, and this is what I like about the games that you create. And I'll tell a little story about how I was inspired and what happened in my house after a conversation with Omar. But it's getting your kids focused on creating and not consuming, right? I mean, because to me, that's the biggest risk out there today. And that's what you and I talk about all the time is, the kids, if they're just ingesting, how are they going to develop a mind of their own, or problem solving, or all these things? Because, and I like what you mentioned before, I wrote it down, the blending of generational fun. And our generation was, okay, guys, yeah, the one TV show that you could see is all over. Go outside, or, go to the play area, do what you have to do. And we had to make it up. And so what I see, and this is, to me, that blending is you're teaching your kids. Sometimes you have to look around and say, well, wait, what's this? What's that? How do we create a game out of this? And I know that after visiting LA, and Omar was sending me some videos and talking about what he was trying to do, I sat down and I showed my kids a simple card game and played it with some of them together individually. And then we just say, hey, if you don't have anything to do, play this game. And they started inventing rules. They started creating things. And one time when I wanted to get back in the game, 3 weeks later, they were telling me all these rules, and they'd made something that was theirs. And now it's part of our family tradition. We play this card game that they call Battle, and we love it. And it's something that is now in that rotation. And so I think that that's really important.
Chris, studies have shown, I don't remember which study, but there are four. I think one researcher was saying there's four kind of pyramids or parameters to creativity or imagination.
Yeah.
But the biggest sign of an imaginative mind or creative mind is improvisation. And when your kids came up with their own rules, that's improvising on what was set.
Right.
And that is the best thing. And to me, maybe sometimes it doesn't suit the situation, right? But you have to let it flow. You have to let them, as crazy as the ideas are, that's fine, right? Yeah. And then, you let them go with it and play with it. And sometimes you have to keep it in check and say, this rule really has no place.
Well, yeah.
But I like the thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's great.
We're fathers of boys, so then when it involves, and then I hit him, you gotta ratchet it back and say, okay, wait, let's slow that down. Yeah. Slow that down. The other thing that you mentioned, and that was one of the things that we were talking about before this call, is having play and actually interacting with your wife. And that was one of the, I don't have, what are the New Year's resolutions per se, but I have, goals that I track over the years. And my goal with my wife this year was to have, more play And one of the things that we've started doing now that we're all together is when it's dinner time and we're cooking dinner, we put on fun music, maybe different genres, different generations, and we're just dancing and we're singing out loud or doing air guitar as we're making it. It sounds like a music video, but I've definitely found that, dancing and music, at volume, it really sort of helps create that atmosphere of play. How do you guys create, just the general atmosphere of play at your house?
Usually it's just I mean, with my two boys, there's something. I mean, I like sports that had, like it was basketball and soccer,
Yeah.
and other stuff, but mostly that. And we have, like, I think at home more than 10 balls, all sizes, all
Yeah.
sizes. One for the little one for the middle, one for the older one. So we really gravitate towards that because there's a ball there, and suddenly one would bounce it, and then they'd like, okay, monkey in the middle, pass it, and then the game just evolves to, okay, pass it and run and put it in the bucket,
Yeah.
and so forth. So you have that. And then, even my little one, she wants to get involved.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously the boys get, a bit, upset because we have to kind of bring the game down a bit to
Yeah.
suit her. But they then understand it, and she's up to pace now,
Wow.
which is fun. And also sometimes I do allow them, bless our couch because it's taken a beating, but I do allow them, some playtime on the couch.
Yeah.
We take our, this was what we used to do when I was young. The beds, the mattresses, we bring them out, and they could have, like a gym session, and they're just
Yeah.
bouncing.
Jumping parties and stuff. Sure.
It's just really things, very simple things that they find fun, and I jump with them on the bed, and it's just kind of these things. But to your point, and I think one of your other sessions, your invitees mentioned this, the dinner and the lunch time. Well, lunchtime is now a bit difficult because everyone has their own schedule of when they're coming in. But
Right.
dinner time, and I remember this when I was young. It was a very sacred time because the whole family would gather, and it
Mm.
was like a check-in. Everyone
Yeah.
would tell what they've done for the day, and that you share the meal, and it was good, like like you were doing. And I think that's something we're trying to work on here. Is dinner time is, it's not mandatory, but it's nice that everyone is at the same table, sharing the meal, and kind of talking about anything that they want to talk about.
Yeah. Exactly. Having that time together.
Yeah.
And so when we think about, play, and we're thinking about games and things at home, how do you're very unique. And I think you and I spoke about the fact that your goal in creating this is not that you're creating something that people need to go out and buy all this expensive equipment, but you're looking around the house and you're saying, how can we put this together and create games from what we see? What are the things? I mean, obviously you said, and I know I've seen the videos, right? How many balls you guys have? What are the other things that you look at that you say, hey, these are the types of things that you can use very simply to start creating simple games for the kids? Because I really want to try and give people something that, and we'll talk about where they can get the videos later, but how do you start framing up and saying, hey, here's a game that we can make?
You look at different stuff and you're inspired by different things. Like, for example, like one of the games we're doing is, I really didn't like chemistry. Up to this day, I really don't like chemistry. Right? But for me, there was a reason why probably I didn't like chemistry.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it here, but my cousin is with us. She flew in before this whole thing started because we were
Right.
worried about her, and she came in before that, and we wanted her here with us, with the family. She
Yeah.
studies in Boston, and she's taking, well, she wants to be a genetic counselor. right? So she's taking
Okay.
a lot of chemistry, biology, stuff that, I have nothing to do with. Um,
Right.
and I was sitting there, and and she was explaining to me some organic chemistry, and then I said, well, are there any, let's talk about compounds, right? Let's talk about simple compounds.
Mm.
And then you go down that rabbit hole of saying, okay, so compounds that are simple to memorize and are relevant to everyday, say, life: water, air, salt,
Wow.
gas.
Yeah.
These are, and to be fair, these compounds aren't necessarily hard to memorize. So if there is a game to be played, right,
Mm.
that you add some kind of challenge and some kind of physical element to, that makes chemistry fun activity for the kids, right?
Yeah.
Then you've done something. And I think that's where I do this, is anything that's there, that I can kind of use, and kind of make benefit of, like chemistry. Like, how do you make something so mundane fun?
Right.
We do that. And then obviously with the activities, it just becomes much more easier, because you could do obstacle courses, you
Right.
could do other, I mean, I used to be into show jumping, like as a horse rider, for many years when I was younger. Now, how do I use that,
Ah.
with my kids? How do I, now there's, the horse course game, and they go up and they build fences and they do a course, and they understand what this means and what type of jump this is. And so
Wow.
it's really, how do you there is games that are just fun and silly, which
Sure.
is absolutely fine. And then there are games that have context to it and the outside. And then if you can help, parents and kids kind of understand other, sports or things outside in the world, but in a fun manner, right? That has a
Yeah.
physical activity, because we're all about, running and jumping, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that's it. Yes.
With the
So that's
kids.
that's
And so, well, no, so that's really interesting. And now I'm getting some insight and some inspiration here. So what I'm hearing you say is you did the show jumping, you had obstacle courses, so you use that. The kids now create these courses and they run them. They
yeah,
go and they'll jump, they'll go around.
yeah. And
And
that,
so,
it's really amazing, because they'll come to me and say, Dad, this is a single jump, right? Which is just a one jump. And then they would
right.
say, oh, Dad, this is an oxer. An oxer is basically two jumps together, right? And you jump
Oh yeah,
far
jump,
away.
jump.
Yeah, no, jump, no. It's one jump, but it's like wider,
Oh
right?
yeah, you
So
get okay, it's
yeah,
jump.
yeah, jump. So that's an oxer, and so they know that, and they know, like, if they tie, there's a jump off, and the jump off have a set of rules, and
Wow.
they get to name themselves as horses, you know.
Yeah.
So it's that's the context, really.
Well, and so what I'm hearing here is I actually observed it with my wife the other day is when she was younger, she and her sister played all these hand games where they'd, clap each other's hands and sing little songs.
Yeah,
And what I'm reflecting on is whether it's a game that you can play with them, or whether it's, if I used to ride on BMX courses and I can think of all those jumps, I can recreate something like that and have them go through that physically, and we can relate. Because I think what I like about what you're saying too is you're teaching them something new, you're giving them something that again they can improvise on, but you're sharing a framework that then, it's always really cool when your kids read back something to do. So when they read back like, oh Dad, I tried to jump this oxer and I totally wiped out, you can relate to that because you'd been there on totally different experience. But having that common language and that fun, I think that does help deepen and create a family bond.
yeah. I mean, I think, especially now, and hopefully even after this whole, unfortunate situation that everyone is in,
Yeah.
kind of boils over. We will continue to do these games. Our aim is really, as you said, is to kind of make the household fun. And you know, as a parent, you need to kind of if this is your kind of decooling situation, right, or diffusing
Yeah.
situation after a long day or during the weekends, it's nothing better than to just play with your kids as a kid. And you know, we
Yeah.
provide you, you know, we provide you these games. Just go ahead and do it, or if you want to improvise and do your own, you know, that's, we've done our job.
Well, and so you brought up an interesting point, and I think that this is where we've actually started finding, and this literally happened, 4 or 5 days ago, is, we've been doing this, playing more games. They've been doing some improvising. And now, like the other day, they just started saying, oh, we've created this game and we're going to go outside and play with ourselves and we don't need you. I was like, oh, that reminded me a lot of, ourselves when we were kids. Like, we're going out to play because you got so excited about it, and they're creating and they're using their imaginations. And so, to me, that I think that's a reward that parents can get out of this, especially if you have siblings working together, is then they can start creating on their own. And and I can dip in and I observe them because they were climbing some trees, and not that they weren't getting out of control or anything, and I think it's good to climb trees, but you can dip in and make sure that everyone's okay. But now they're excited to go play by themselves and create this stuff, and I think that to me is a gift. That to me is a gift that we can give our children.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's good, you know, it's, you said an important thing, which is team. And usually between siblings, it's in the beginning, it's, you know, it's a competition. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is my way. But yeah, I think I think ultimately they well, my kids, they ultimately figure out that if they're going to have fun together at some stage, they're going to have to work together, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't really, I mean, I do mention the word team to them, but they, you know, they sometimes they just don't get it. Like, no, 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 this is my
Right.
way, and he said this and she said this. But you know, ultimately, if I'm observing them, at some point they do click. And you know, because then it becomes not fun. You know, no one wants to sit there and fight all the time, even them. So they get tired
I
of it and say, okay, you know, let's just you know, play within these guidelines that we've set for each other. And it's
Wow.
great.
Well, and that to me, that's another magical byproduct, is when you do see the kids learning to set rules and follow them, hold each other accountable, and then also, okay, wait, we have to work this out. I can't be all about me. I have to actually be a part of something bigger, and I
Right.
have to be a part of cooperation if I want the game and the play to continue. So many lessons, and I know that we're two dads that are passionate about this, and I know that there's a lot of studies and other things that follow this that encourage and talk about how play is really incredibly healthy, and there's a lot of great byproducts, and
Yeah.
it's definitely great to see that in
Right.
our kids.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. I think Skipydoo right now is at a very exciting stage. It just really launched formally, and there are a lot of videos that are free for people to come and use and consume that. And I want to talk about and we're going to include, in the notes and the posting that we'll have on our YouTube channel and other things, all the links to these things. But where do you think would be a good place for people to start? I really want people to be able to walk away from this conversation thinking, here's, I'm here in this house. We're forced, it's forced upon us. We're trying to get to a better place, do something new. How do they start initiating play and leverage Skipydoo?
Well, I mean, it's very, I mean, it's a very good question, and it's quite simple. I mean, they can just visit our YouTube page or Vimeo page, and then you know, there are, I think we have 8 games or 7 games right now. Um, and you know, if they like all of them and they want to do all of them, by all means. If they like some and they want to repeat them again, you know, you know, these videos are different. I mean, they have different kind of activities. Some for a little bit older kids, some for younger kids, some that, you know, fit all. But it's good that, you know, my recommendation is, it's good that the parent gets involved really,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly, and plays it as a kid, because then the kid really, you know, then they take it to the next level of excitement and fun and joy, and to show these games, because once the kid sees these games, it's over. They just, you know, they just want to create something. Either they want to create it exactly, or they want to create a version of it that suits them,
Right.
and both are equally fine and amazing.
Well, and that's I think a good important point to add. And I know in some of the first videos, when my guys were trying to balance those balls, my little guys don't have the coordination of some of your older kids, and it was very frustrating. So it's like, okay, let's scrap that, and then let's either, you know, I think at that point we actually started moving to cloths, because we had a thinner cloth that could still hold it, you know. Anyway, but the videos are meant to be guides. The mini videos are meant to show you what is possible. Into Omar's point, follow it to a T or customize it. And I definitely, more than anything, you know, as a father, as a mother, get in and play with your kids. And for all of us, I would say, feel that joy, right?
Yes.
I think Omar and I do connect on this, because I think he and I are both just really kids at heart, and we love play. And I can say, like him, there were times that, you know, I was really focused on my career, and I didn't feel that joy. And as now my boys have gotten to this play age, I love joy. I love belly laughs. Like, the best thing for me, sometimes I can look down the hall and see them playing cards like a bunch of old men. It's hilarious. And some joke will happen, and they will have these belly laughs, like they're and it is like, I can just start laughing and have so much enjoyment because I'm witnessing that. And so, you know, encouraging this and encouraging kids to play is just so incredible. And I had to say, Omar, this chemistry game, in playing with chemistry, like, you have me. I'm going to be waiting to see when this thing comes out. This sounds like
Yeah,
something really
I
neat.
think that one, and you know, there's something about my kids joke that I have color blindness, and it's in, you know, it's a good thing, Chris, that, you know, we don't take ourselves too seriously. You know,
Yeah.
life is serious as it is, really,
Yeah.
and if we can, you know, take a step back, enjoy and have fun with the kids, and be a little kid, as you know, from time to time, and really, you know, and even joke about ourselves and some of our shortcomings.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you know, the world would be a little bit less serious place, and a little bit more enjoyable and happy. And we're going to try to, you know, keep on creating these games. I mean, we aim to have at least 4 to 5 new games each month.
Oh,
Um,
great.
and, you know, there's you know, not free, the no cost to it. It's free. And, you know, we'll keep doing this for as long as we can.
That's great. Well, and I just want to say a big thank you today, Omar, for joining us and sharing this. I do think that, you know, play is so important, and I just really want to try and synthesize everything that, you know, we've talked about. I think first and foremost, you know, and I may not go in the order that we discussed it, but this is the order that I'm thinking about it, is we as parents, we as the ones who are setting the tone for this environment that we're in, us grabbing and having an attitude of play and figuring out how we can play with our kids, how we can play with our spouses, and having that is going to be such a relief. And I think it is going to give you a new energy in where we are right now. And I think that, so realizing that we need to play, you know, number two is inventing and creating games. Leverage Skipydoo as an opportunity to see what is the art of the possible. What can you do? And if you're doing the same game, or if you're borrowing a framework, leverage that, because that's exactly why Omar created it. The other thing that we talked about that, you know, got me really thinking is this blending of generational fun. What were the things that you enjoyed that you really want to share with your kids? And, you know, Omar's story of the horse jumping and then creating these obstacle courses that his kids jump over, but they're leveraging the same language, I think is is just really powerful. And then I think the call to action that I think, Omar, you really called out is, parents, this is for us, not leading and saying, okay, you guys have to do this, but going in, having the fun, and making sure that when you go in there and there's that moment that's saying, hey guys, we're turning off the technology and we're going to play, that you're able to take the lead and you're able to take the reins and really help them play.
Yeah, definitely. And we welcome any feedback. We love people to communicate with us and share their fun and excitement or stories. We're always open for anything like that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank
Omar. Congrats on the Skipydoo. And to everyone listening in, please, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a Wealthward Capital YouTube channel where all these videos are going to be there, and we're going to be publishing the links in the show notes to both. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris.
And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. We're going to be talking about making an impact, and it's going to be focused on leadership. How do we need to be leading, at home and at work right now, and then in our investing life as we're moving through this. All right. Thanks, Omar.
Take care. Thanks.